We are live. We've got one like already, but it says no one's here, but we have one like. God bless YouTube. Jesse, good. How are you? I hope you can hear me and I hope you're doing well. Can you hear me, Jesse? Hopefully. I know there's usually a lag in the very beginning. We'll start at 6 minutes early. John Williams, how are you? Welcome to the live, Jesse Good and John Williams. Can you guys hear me? Blue Days. Joey G. What's up, David? How are you, buddy? All right, perfect. Tina, I was waiting for the live to thank you. I got your clock. Thank you so much, Tina. I was waiting for the live. I'll wait until a couple more people show up to thank you. What's up, Arthur Ostrander, Kathy Hayes, Tracy, Scotty Lee, and Donna? How are you? Redbird. Brian Mons, where's your puck, Wudgie? I didn't want to do it on Friday. I didn't want to, because I figured you would be here on Saturday night. So I was like, I'll just save it and thank her on Saturday with everybody else. Joe Baker, how are you? What's up, Nexus? Johnny Midnight, how are you, buddy? Sonia, Aramek, what's up, brother? Adam Condon, Bill Fish, how are you? Bluefish, what the fuck, Bill Fish? Rick, what's up? Harry? Nah, because if I did a Lot Lizard channel, I would ruin it. I think Lot Lizards are exclusively for Saturday. I do 3 a week, and I think that's just enough. Stacy Lockett, how are you? Sasquatch and Grandma, how are you? 1992. That was very hard to sound out. God dang it. Hollow, how are you? We always have room for neckbeards and chia pets. Mike Prowse. Troy, how are you, buddy? Well, thank you, Tina. Ryu, how are you? Simone, how are you? I'm glad that you're here, Redbird. I'm glad. Delirium, there you are. How are you? Actually, last time I checked, I was at 99,800. Yeah, I'm at 99,799. I was when I woke up this morning, or sometime during the day. I think it was like 3:30 in the afternoon. I was like 99,802. I have no idea what happened. What's going on? What's going on outside in? How are you? Maggie Mayhem. I hear you, Aramek. I hear you. It's so weird. I don't even get so excited about it anymore. Like I don't like get butthurt about it when they do it to me. Cause I'm like, you know what? DB Mac. Claire Harris, how are you? Because if I get butthurt on it, it's just gonna like cause more stress for me. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna pay attention to it. I'll just wait until I crawl into bed. I'll look and check, and then I'll go to bed, and I won't stew on it all day long. You know. I got 3 really good Lot Lizard stories. No, Aramek, that's definitely no. I tell you, I definitely want it. I think that's a huge part of my depression was like when I was so depressed for the last couple of weeks and a month that I was just like, Oh. Marcy, how are you? What's up, Michael Gregg? Pinch, how are you? Larry Lindman, thank you so much, buddy. Tag that one. No, dude, you're great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. How was your vacation? There's been stories of there was a Dogman experience a lady and her husband had in Ohio where there was a couple of dogmen and they were actually her father-in-law had passed away, had a heart attack in a fishing boat, and she believes that they had seen these dogmen. The father-in-law used to see them all the time. And she saw there was one, she witnessed one kind of holding the boat close to the shore so it wouldn't cast out and get taken away by the current. So, I mean, I think they can swim. Most wild animals can. You know, it's anything that is like a predator, I'm sure knows how to swim, climb trees. Just my own theory. So, Tyler, how are you? Sean McCabe, how are you, buddy? All right, so Mr. Haunted, what's up, brother? How are you, my friend? So, really quick, we got 103 people. Tina Marie makes clocks, and she sent me a clock for my birthday. So, thank you very much, Tina. I wanted to wait until the live stream to thank you. I got to put a battery in it, and I'll hang it in the studio up here. So, thank you so much. Jess B. Keith, what's going on, buddy? How are you tonight? Good seeing you. Jesse, good. Outside in. Maggie Mayhem, Blue Day. Siggy, how are you? Cynthia, MJ Bates. Jan, how are you doing? It is a beautiful clock. It is. I like how it's only got the 4 digits too. 12, 3, 6, and 9. It's perfect. So my shirt finally came in. I've been waiting for this goddamn shirt for the last 2 months. And I waited for this because I was hoping it came in like 2 weeks ago when Lizo met the Gimp. Redbird, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Edbot, how are you? So, Delirium, thank you so much. So, but New Faith No More t-shirt with the Gimp. You gotta love the Gimp. I'm so glad everyone's here. So I got a stack of encounters. Haha. And it's got the I don't know, the Faith No More star on the back. I've been waiting for this so long. They didn't have it on their website, and I didn't want to get like a fab copy or a shitty remake. So I went to rocktshirts.com or something. And they said that it took so long because apparently bands have, like, if they sell out of stuff on their website, on the band's website, they still have a contract with this t-shirt company to still make the shirts for this company to sell them. So it has the Faith No More logo on the inside, which I was so happy about. Enormous, how are you? D.L. Hemingway, how are you? There's Jim Baker. No, it's not an Illuminati star. It's definitely not an Illuminati star. Gavin Rogers, how are you? All right. Let's start this night off right. Oh, hang on. Look what I found today. Mountain Dew, cherry lemon. Trolls. Trolly. Oh, God, that was vile. Oh. We'll just stick to Coca-Cola. I'm going to give that to the kids. That soda's filthy. Ugh, that was filthy. Fuck that. I dated several dogmen. Yeah, that one sip is all I'm going to have. I would like to make my experience known to others that have maybe experienced what I have, or if you haven't, do not take this with a grain of salt. Now, I've been a long time avid outdoorsman. I live in Michigan. I love hunting, also backpacking. I've only had 2 experiences like this. The one I'm about to describe is the worst of the 2. This happened in 2019. I was at a buddy's house whose whole family lives on one street. All houses are on one side and everything is woods anywhere you go. My friend's house is at the end, further down the road. So with that being said, nobody that is not in the family will be outside, especially late at night. We were having a fire. It was maybe 1-ish a.m. and my friend asked me if I had heard people talking. He turned off the music and we sat in silence. We listened. Then we heard a very strange laughing, but only one thing, not multiple. Then the laughing morphed into 3 things. I would say it started talking. It was so weird hearing it. Now, where we heard this was across this little stream, so you would hear if it was coming to us. My friend has bad vision, so this next part I only saw. There was no cloud cover that night. The moon lit up the tree line. I swear I saw a man turn into a dog thing that was upright, 4-limbed man thing, just turn into a creature on the ground like a dog. I started hitting my friend repeatedly, asking, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" Everything that happened so far, it has been maybe 5 minutes. It was moving very slow, like it was stalking us. It kept making a strange noise. We could hear its barking. In front of us was a pond, and on the other side of it, in the middle, is a huge clearing. Then it appeared out of the tree line. We both saw a shadow appear. Now, this part of the experience I will always shake when I tell. I've been in the woods all my life, and I have never heard anything like this. You can make weird noises on DJ equipment or whatever, but nothing can compare to what we heard. We saw this thing appear, and it let out the most highest pitched scream for about 3 seconds, as loud as a tornado siren. My ears started to ring, and it started to laugh again. As we were grabbing the speaker, I noticed it started to run towards us. Now, there is a football field distance between us and whatever this thing was, and it crossed the pond in what felt like a matter of a blink of an eye. We both went crazy and scrambled inside, locking the doors, of course. Now, there was not a curtain on the window looking out into the pond, so I sat there, staring at the freaking window for what felt like a year. Reality was about 5 hours until sunlight got up. I have told older men like my grandfather this, that go all over the world hunting for elk, etc., and they laugh at me. I will forever be in disbelief on this event. I will never forget it, and every time I think about it, I cannot get that scream out of my head. Thank you for hearing my experience. I think a lot about it. Like, was this thing staring at me through the window and I could not see it? What if one of us had tripped up trying to get inside? So many unanswered questions. I have that I have. I may never know the truth too. Here is one that we seldom have. SDL, how are you? Zilla, how are you, my friend? Walter, how are you? Walter. Let me see what I miss. Samara Osborne, there you are. Tracy, how are you? Monkey Crap. Wow, I'm so glad you guys are here tonight. I am doing good, Zilla. I am doing good. Thank you for asking. You had 8 tornadoes? What? Hang on. Let me see what I missed here. Been in 8 tornadoes. Not fun. Aramet, geez, I'm crow. You gotta stop grabbing onto the Mothman's back legs and just like you need to chill with that. They will take you far away someday. I promise. Little Orphan Andy, Dogman is real 100%. You've been with the channel for a long time. Like, you've been in these live streams for at least a while now. Like, I share my experience periodically. I wouldn't share it if I didn't know it, if I didn't believe in it and saw one. Do you have a tornado cellar, Aramek? Neutrino Waves, how are you? Awesome. So you got the little door that you go in? Is it part of your house or opposite of the house? No, you did not miss Lizo. You did not miss Lizo at all. Conscious Wanderer. Tom Lyons is an author. Tom Lyons is an author, so he's not a researcher. He's just like accumulated experiences and then wrote a book. I might have some Goat Man. I'm not sure. No, it's a basement to hide in. Reinforced concrete. All right, that's awesome. I like the ones that are separate. I think I would have one of those, but I would like turn it into like a party hole. That kind of sounded weird. Come to my party hole. No, there's not. No, it's way better than anything. There's just that stone, the 3 stones that are stacked up there. John Sumner, how are you? So we seldom get feral human experiences, but I found one and I was so excited. I got a couple actually. I went on a family vacation to the Great Smoky Mountains. I'm not sure the month, but it was in spring. We had been there for a few days exploring just everything. This was something we had done every year, but this year it turned out very different. It was the day before we were set to leave and head back home. My dad decided we would all take a walk down the trails and streams. We were at Deep Creek Loop Trail. My dad had taken his fishing pole. Dad, Mom, my brother, and myself were walking by the stream. My brother and I kind of walked away from the stream a little ways off the trail into the woods. I'm not sure how far we were from our parents. I do know I could not see them anymore. I don't remember if my brother or myself saw it first. From a side view, my first thought was an animal because of its movement in the trees. So, being very quiet, we stepped to the side by a tree and hid, and to be able to watch it. What I thought was an animal was indeed not. It heard us and turned towards us. What I saw was horrifying. It was bent over, devouring a dead animal, possibly a deer. It was tearing its guts out and eating it. It had bloody hands, face, and chest. I saw enough to know that this was not an animal. But dear God, it was not a man either. It had bloody flesh hanging from its mouth and hands. It had a large forehead that looked like it had knots. It was very hairy, but not as hairy as a bear or a bigfoot, or between the blood, the skin looked dirty. It was definitely a deformed man. We were so scared, my brother took off running first, and I followed. I turned for just a second to see if it was coming after us. As I was turning to run also, it took off running the other way. It did not stand up totally straight, but I could tell it was a male. By what I saw, it was at least 6 feet in height, maybe even a little taller. Since he did not stand straight up, it was so hard to tell. He was pretty thick, but still very skinny and deformed. What got me was how it looked like a human man and a creature mixed. I could also smell an odor that was like flesh and garbage. We ran back to my parents and told them. My dad at first thought we may have been trying to play a prank on them. He played along and walked back to where we had just come from. A minute later, he came back and said, "We have to go now." His face was pale, like he had lost all color. We did go to a ranger and told him everything. He said that he was going to call another ranger and they would take a look. He thanked us and we drove off. That was our last visit there. I had nightmares for a while, but I never spoke of it again to anyone. I still do not know what we saw, but this was a man that was mixed with a monster. What's up, 175? How are you? Bruce Bissell, Tracy Ann, how are you guys? Tracy Ann, Tracy. Damn it. Trisha Ann, Arabic! All right, I did get it right. Thank you. You saw, I was like, I definitely want to save that for a little bit. All right, this one is very interesting. We got about 8 minutes till we do the first Lizo story, so I'll share this one because it's a little longer. I really like this one because this is another one of the feral human ones that I found, and I was so excited when I found these. I'd like to begin by saying that I'm a 57-year-old with a professional career, my son who I adore, and a husband who, like me, is completely sane, but terrified at what we saw. The experience I'm going to share with you is true, and this will be the first time I'm writing about it and documenting what occurred. We've only spoken about this to a few close friends, ones that we knew would believe us. But for the most part, we do not speak of this, and we sure heck do not plan ever returning. Thank you, Trisha Ann. September of 2023, myself, my husband, went to Asheville, North Carolina to attend a wedding. We live in the coast of North Carolina, and we drove to Asheville. It was about 5 hours. We attended the wedding and still had 2 days left to explore. And one of those days, we decided to go to Mount Mitchell, which was a 45-minute drive from where we were staying. We did not realize it would be so much walking, but fortunately, we are both pretty good shape. We made it to the top of Mount Mitchell, then walked about 15 minutes southeast deeper into the woods, which was the opposite way of the parking lot. In between Mount Mitchell and Commissionary Ridge, to be exact. The views were spectacular. However, the fog at late night or late afternoon was so thick you could not see too far around. It had been very rainy that week also. So if you could just imagine the ambiance of damp fog amid deep brush following an old dirt trail with wood planks atop of a mountain. It was all so beautiful, but in a very creepy way. It was my husband who noticed it first, a smell, and it hit him like a ton of bricks. I watched him gasp for air, but then he began coughing and gagging to the point snot was dripping from his nose. I thought he may have swallowed his water wrong, but at that moment, the smell hit me as well. It was not just a smell. It almost burnt the hairs in my nostrils. It almost stung. I started dry heaving. In that exact moment, we became even more taken back when a very large tree branch came crashing down a little behind and to the left of us. It startled us both, and I yelped while still gagging on that smell that was burning my nose. My husband, finally getting his breath, he exclaimed, "What the fuck is that smell?" Rare for my husband to swear. The only way that I can describe the smell is vomit, stomach acid, with a very strong concentration of urine and a hint of spoiled milk. There was also a sweet smell of something mixed in. It's very difficult for my brain to even process it. Sickeningly putrid. I'm a nurse and have never been so sickened by a smell until this day. I said to my husband, "Let's head back." And without hesitation, we did. We then immediately noticed that there was movement by a large tree branch that had fallen, now onto the right side. We were walking, still coughing some, and coming up closer to the branch. This branch was about 20 to 25 feet long and about 45 feet from us off the trail. This branch had several smaller twigs stemming off of it. Some looked like spikes almost. And that's when we saw an animal still moving somewhat, impaled by one of the smaller limbs or spikes of this large branch. My husband was sure it was a red fox. The fox was twitching and then appeared to have died immediately. It looked almost as if the fox had fallen from the sky, landed right onto this spiked limb bottom first, and from its mouth protruded the end of the spike. We both knew it had just happened for the fox to still be twitching like that when we saw it. Of course, it died within seconds after we processed what we were looking at. A silhouette of a man appeared behind the large limb in the fog. Assuming it was off-trail hiker, and we had watched the man get closer to this limb, and our eyes took a few seconds to adjust and focus. And it was a man, but not from this planet. We are still coughing some and gagging and stopped on the trail at this point. I saw what it was, and it was not a man. It was just shaped like a man. It stood 6'6", 6'2", and was both skinny and muscular at the same time. Its hands were large. We could see its body was almost mangled up or deformed because of some protrusions throughout its body. It leaned to one side and stepped over this large tree branch, and we could see some kind of animal that my husband nor I could identify was in this thing's hands. And he took the animal, which was obviously already dead. He, with no effort at all, shoved it onto the spike on top of where the fox was. I think it may have been a rabbit just because of the size. Our coughing and gagging continued, and I was getting dizzy. I looked at my husband first, then it turned its head slowly and looked at me. That face, its face I will never forget, and a face that I wish I could forget. Its eyes were a cloudy gray. It looked like there was no eyelids. The right eye socket was up higher on its face than the left. I don't remember anything else about its face except it was chewing very slowly and it tilted its head some while still looking our way. The body did look like a man. The rib cage protruded some. Penis was evident. Its skin looked ripped in some areas, and then some areas it almost looked burnt to a crisp. But the overall skin color was a pale pink, grayish color. It was very odd. My husband and I are now walking backward as watching this thing watch us. What it did then, I will never forget. It raised its hand, took its pointer finger, and moved it back and forth like a tisk tisk or a no no, as if we were not supposed to be here. It moved its finger like that a few times while still chewing, and its head tilted, and I began to cry immediately, and crying hard to the point my body convulsed. My husband gripped my hand harder, and we continued to back away, still walking almost backward carefully until we walked around the curve in the path and lost sight. It stared at us right up until that moment. We ran as fast as a couple in their 50s could while hysterically crying. We made it to the Mount Mitchell parking lot, and we got into our truck and locked the doors and drove away. We could still smell that smell. It was burnt into our nostrils, still coughing some. My husband then, all of a sudden, pulls over to the side of the road, opens his door, vomits on the ground. He then says, "That was not a Bigfoot." And I replied, "I know." We didn't know what it was, but all we did know was that it was not a Bigfoot. We left that day early and took a 5-hour drive back, and it was still all we could think about. My very religious husband believed that it was a demonic entity. I still was not sure what we saw until someone that I shared my experience with said they had seen this similar thing, that they knew it was a feral human. After a long debate, we finally decided that we would not report the encounter to park services out of fear of being laughed at. I want to also add that I am a big skeptic. But what my eyes saw that day was incomprehensible, something that eyes of mankind should never gaze upon. 6 months later, I can still see it, and I can still sometimes get a whiff of it. It's embedded into my being now. That encounter has made me question everything I thought I knew about life. And just know, we do not plan to return to those mountains ever again. And I pray that those who do visit will please be careful. Over these last couple of months, it's all I think about. I recalled that it almost felt like something was watching us on the opposite side of the trail. And my husband and I had wondered if there were more of them out there. There are feral humans in those mountains, and I do not question that at all. Damn. That was creepy. My birthday's Tuesday. Orion, how are you? Teen Wolf was scary. Oh, my Lord. Definitely an abomination. Tommy, how are you? Long time no see, dear. Andy Davis. Heath Brook, how are you? Julie, how are you tonight? It's been a while. Mikey, what's up, buddy? That would be definitely super weird. Vixen Sexy, I've not had any encounters in Washington, D.C. to say, but on the outskirts of. 59th, what's going on, my brother? Hey, I don't know if you heard the upload the other day, but I mentioned you 59th, and I want to thank you for throwing my email out there to everyone when you do it. Casinos, Cryptids, and Conspiracies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, Stargazer, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Stargazer. Happy birthday to Stargazer. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. There was a lot of busy parents in the cold days of the early winter months. January and February were busy months. Busy months. You know what's funny is I thought about that. I was like, I'm like, I wonder. And then I thought about Isabel's birthday, and Isabel's birthday is November 15th. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, Valentine's Day. But happy birthday, Stargazer. Thank you for spending your birthday with us. I appreciate that. I'm going to take a look at that mountain. Actually, I kind of want to save this experience because it was definitely interesting. That area of America is some very strangeness. Thank you, Delirium. Aw, Lucy, thank you. I'm so glad you like the channel. Shackleneck is in a rehabilitation center. Getting stronger. Yeah, he had a long time ago when he was still doing predator experiences. Oh shit, Aramic. That was good. That was good. Well, thank you, Zilla. I appreciate you. Tigger is laying on his bed. He was home, so he didn't get into the rehab because last time I talked to him, he said he was going to get in on Monday. His wife Teresa is taking good care of him. She's an amazing woman. Ooh, here we go. Oh, wait, 30 minutes in. Lot lizard time. All I need is 3 yeses for a lot lizard. Which one, 59th? I went up twice. Jordan or Jordy, how are you? Turbo Christ. All right, it is lot lizard time. I don't do Nephilim experiences. I get them so seldom, and I don't do them at live streams. All right. All right, here we go. The grimy guzzler wasn't so much a truck stop as it was a gravitational anomaly disguised as a greasy spoon. It sat, a beacon of flickering neon and exhaust fumes, in a desperation so deep it felt like the earth itself had shrugged it off. No highway markers to point it out, no GPS could reliably find it. And yet, the big rigs, like enormous metal-plated moths, were drawn to its dim yellow glow, wheels grinding over the roads that were less paved and more suggestions of gravel. Inside, the coffee was thick enough to chew. The pie tasted vaguely of regret, and the air hummed with the ghosts of a million broken dreams and bad decisions. Presiding over this peculiar kingdom was Lizo, the undisputed queen of the lot lizards. She wasn't just a working girl. She was a force of nature, a shimmering, sequenced, and surprisingly sensible matriarch in the landscape of desperation. Her bare excuse me. Her beehive hairdo defied the laws of physics. Her laugh could rattle the fillings right out of your teeth, and her eyes, though often hidden behind a dramatic sweep of glittery shadow, missed absolutely nothing. Tonight, however, even Lizo felt a prickle of unease that had nothing to do with a trucker trying to haggle down her rates. For weeks, the guzzler had been buzzing with a different kind of static. Lights flickered erratically, the diesel pumps stuttered, and the usual boisterous truckers had gone quiet, their eyes darting towards the vast inky blackness beyond the lot. Whispers of the Mothman had started circulating. Though this was no ordinary cryptid, this was a reptilian Mothman as described by a few wide-eyed, half-crazed long haulers. A creature with leathery bat-like wings, an elongated scaly snout, and eyes that glowed the color of a hot rod's brake lights. Old man Tibber, the trucker whose rig dated back to the Mesozoic era, swore he had seen it snatch the side view mirror right off of a truck on Tuesday. Sounded like a stack of anvils flying past, then poof, my mirror was gone. Only thing left was kind of a slimy, iridescent goo. Lizo scoffed, adjusting a rhinestone on her massive belt buckle. Probably just that cheap adhesive you use, Tibber. Or maybe you finally pissed off a pigeon long enough to steal your reflection. Still, a shiver danced down her spine. The goop part was new. Then, the incidents escalated. Diesel lines were mysteriously siphoned dry, leaving trucks stranded. Cargo straps vanished, causing crates of dubious farm equipment to spill out onto the pitted asphalt. One night, a trucker named Aramek, a man whose bulk was only rivaled by his snoring, claimed the creature had tried to unlatch his trailer while he was napping, leaving behind a series of deep claw-like gouges in the metal. "It looked like a damn iguana that ate a whole disco ball, Lizo," he bellowed, still shaking, "and it sounded like 1,000 crickets getting stomped." Lizo listened, her expression unreadable. This was her patch. These were her truckers. And nobody, not even a giant flying reptilian disco iguana, was going to mess with her business. The night the Mothman decided to make its grand entrance, the grimy guzzler was unusually busy. A convoy of 3 rigs had just pulled in, the drivers blissfully unaware of the unease simmering in the air. Lizo was outside leaning against the counter of her mobile styling salon in spiritual consultation trailer, applying a fresh coat of glitter lip gloss. Then the lights of the lot flickered, dimmed, and plunged into near darkness, leaving only a sickly glow of gas pump displays. A guttural shriek tore through the night, a sound that was less a cry and more of a violation of the sound barrier. Truckers scrambled from their cabs, curses and shouts filled the air. Above them, a monstrous silhouette bolted out of the few visible stars. It swooped low, its leathery wings beaded with a wet, heavy thud, red eyes truly like blazing brake lights fixated on the nearest rig. "Sweet mother of diesel," Tibber gasped, fumbling for a tire iron. The creature landed on Aramik's trailer, its claws scraped like nails on a blackboard. It was even more absurdly terrifying up close, a hulking, hunched figure, vaguely humanoid, but unmistakably reptilian, with a long, segmented tail twitching behind it. Its face was a nightmare of scales and sharp teeth, and where its chest should have been, there seemed to be a series of pulsing, iridescent sacs. It let out another shriek, then began tearing at the trailer's latch with surprising nimbleness. "Hey, get your scaly ass off my property," Lizo, voice amplified with sheer indignation, cut through the panic. The creature paused, its head swiveled, those horrid red eyes locked onto Lizo. It seemed to assess her, a creature of primal fear observing a woman in a sequenced jumpsuit and gravity-defying hairdo. You heard me, Swamp Thing? Lizo pulled a can of industrial-strength hairspray from her purse, its chrome gleam reflecting the creature's eyes. This ain't your all-you-can-eat reptile buffet. She let out a blast. The hairspray, infused with enough chemicals to strip paint, hit the creature in the snout. The Mothman recoiled with a hiss, momentarily disoriented by the stinging aerosol. Now that's how you get a good old darling. But not my boy's rigs, Lizo declared. Then, with surprising speed, she reached behind her and grabbed a tire iron from the toolbox under her trailer. It was heavy, satisfyingly solid. You want to fight, lizard man? You got one with the queen. The Mothman, recovering from the hairspray assault, spread its wings wide, letting out a deafening screech that sent shivers down everyone's spine. It lunged, talons, hands extended, aiming for Lizo, but Lizo was no stranger to aggressive advances. She ducked a whirl of sequence and swung that tire iron with a grunt. It connected with a sickening thud against the creature's leathery wing. Another piercing shriek, the Mothman stumbled back, momentarily grounded. That's for Aramic's mirror, Lizo yelled, winded from invigoration. She then spotted a stack of plastic milk crates near the dumpster. And this is for the diesel. With a well-aimed kick, she sent the crates tumbling towards the creature's legs. The Mothman, surprisingly clumsy on the ground, tripped, flailing its wings wildly. It regained its footing, frustrated. It spat a stream of vicious, glowing goop, a very same goop Tibber described, narrowly missing Lizo's hair. The goop sizzled on the asphalt, leaving a smoking stain. Oh, you want to get dirty, Lizo smirked, wiping a speck of goo from her cheek. I practically invented dirty. Her eyes scanned the lot. Styling salon trailer, the gas pumps, an idea sparked. Tibber, Airman, get over here, she commanded. We need some pressure. Confused, but galvanized, the grizzled trucker stumbled forward. Get the fire hoses from the pump station, Lizo pointed to the emergency hose reel. And then I need you to aim it right at that thing. While the truckers fumbled with the hoses, Lizo grabbed a full unopened gallon jug of windshield wiper fluid from the supply shelf near the pumps. As the Mothman lumbered towards her, ready for another aerial assault, she uncapped that jug and, with a powerful two-handed swing, hurled it like a bowling ball. It struck the creature's head with a dull thud, dazing it for a precious second. That was all the time Tibber and Ermic needed. That water hose, usually reserved for hosing down spilled diesel, roared to life, shooting a powerful stream. Lizo directed them. Eyes! Aim for the damn glowing eyes! The high-pressure water stream hit the Mothman square in its reptilian face. The creature shrieked a sound of pure agony as the water seemed to sting its sensitive skin. In those glowing red orbs, it recoiled, stumbling backwards. Disoriented and disarrayed, it thrashed, its wings beating erratically against the harsh spray. Lizo, seeing her chance, picked up a discarded wrench, heavy and substantial. And this, she declared, windmilling the wrench over her head. This is for the restless nights you gave my boys. With a mighty roar, she threw the wrench. It spun end over end, a blur of silver, and caught the Mothman squarely in one of its pulsating, iridescent sacs on its chest, and the sac burst with a sickening squelch, spilling more of the glowing, vicious goo. The creature let out a final ear-splitting shriek of pure, unadulterated pain and indignity. Its majestic, leathery wings, now ragged and wet, gave a few desperate flaps. With a clumsy lurch, the Mothman launched itself into the sky, not with its usual predatory grace, but with a panicked flailing of a giant pissed-off chicken. It disappeared into the oppressive darkness. leaving only the sound of a receding, wounded cries and lingering smell of ozone and wet scales. Silence descended upon the grimy guzzler, broken only by a panting of the truckers and a slow drip of the water hose. Lizo, chest heaving, hair still miraculously intact despite the battle, slowly lowered her guard. She looked at her truckers, their faces a mixture of awe and relief. Will, she said, adjusting her sequence top and giving a dismissive flick of her wrist. That's that, then. Some folks just don't know how to take a hint. Aramis stood, mouth agape. Lizo, you just beat up the Mothman. She smirked. Honey, I've dealt with worse things than a glorified gecko with wings. Now, do you boys want to finally get some sleep, or do you want to stand around all night gawking? My salon is open for appointments if anyone needs a little stress relief. The truckers, still buzzing, looked at each other, then back at Lizo, the queen of the lot lizards, defender of the grimy guzzler, casually dusting off her hands. The gas pumps flickered back to life. The neon sign of the guzzler burned a little brighter, and the coffee inside, no doubt, was still thick enough to chew. The truck stop, defying all logic and common sense, was back to its strange, unsettling, unexplainable normal. And Lizo, its true monarch, had simply cemented her legend. This isolated, nonsensical beacon continued to draw in lost souls. And as long as Lizo was there, they knew deep down they were probably safe from anything in the darkness that could be thrown at them. Probably. Nicole Clark, how are you? What's up, Clint? How are you, buddy? I almost had you entering the salon to have one good evening with Lizo, Aramis, but I couldn't. biblically, there are no female Nephilim, and I had actually asked Stephen Quayle's son the other day about a couple of different things. I don't know if you guys heard, but I talked to Stephen Quayle's son, and he grew up with Stephen in learning all the things that he learned and has gone over. And I'm going to probably have him on the show sometime this week, hopefully. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Tara, how are you? Johnny Ohm. Thank you, Aramis, and that's exactly what he said. Thank you, Meredith. Appreciate that. Yes, he was. In a moment of silence, and then we're not getting political tonight because it's just too much. Hey, Pops, how are you? I hope your little trip was good tonight. All right. I've got one experience. Simone's here, and I know Simone, my Australian friend. And I think there's one other person that's from Australia tonight here. But I've got an Australian experience that I've never heard of this creature. So, Arabic! Thank you, brother. You are too kind. I finally feel like sharing this. It's been heavy on my mind. Okay, I grew up in an old house in the south, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. The house was laid out somewhat circular, as you could walk from the living room through most other rooms just by walking in a complete circle and end up back where you started. When I was around 5, myself and my younger sister were chasing each other in circles while my mom was cooking dinner. I was in front of her, and we were laughing and carrying on. When we got into the dining room, in the inside corner, there was a small greenish creature with a dark cloak on. It seemed to have pointed ears that stuck out and what looked like sharp teeth. I was young, but it was still very small. So I would say maybe 2 feet. It looked kind of like it had been at the bottom of a pond or something, very old and tattered. It put its finger to its lips and was grinning. I slammed to a stop, and my sister was chasing so close. She ran right into me while pushing both of us around the corner into the kitchen. We both started screaming, and my mom ran to see what was the matter, but this thing was gone. It has haunted me for years. I'm 25 now, and although I have done a ton of searching, I've never found anything that fits what we saw. For a long time, I thought maybe I had imagined it. And if it weren't for my sister also seeing it, or my mom remembering our very real terror, I probably would have just written it off. Any ideas what this could have been? There are so many weird things happening in that house when I was young. Disembodied voices, things moving, super weird dreams. But that was obviously the weirdest and most unsettling. We still talk about it from time to time, and it always makes you kind of feel yucky. Yucky. Lake 17, how are you? James, how are you? Kushtaka. All right, so this is for Simone. Are you still here with us? Smitty J, what's up? Ugh. There we go. Fuck. Got him unstuck that time. All right, so I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Quollman, Quoll, Quollman. I was cycling around the Australian rainforest near me, a national park in a town I will not name due to privacy reasons. Deep in the forest, the shadows and trees will play tricks on your eyes, warping your vision and making your brain see things that are not there. As I have been raised around this rainforest, I knew how to discern real from illusion, and I am sure that this encounter was real. Pedaling down a bumpy walking trek, I went deep into the heart of the forest near a burbling creek. In my bag, a fishing knife, a multi-tool, and a lunch pack. I set myself down under a shady gum tree. I took out my lunch pack and started to eat. The chirping of the birds in the background, suddenly everything went quiet. Off in the shadows of the forest, I heard a rustling, remembering the time I had come face to face with a Yowie. I gripped my fishing knife tight, turned my knuckles white, shifting my weight, and rustling stopped. I heard the paddling of paws on the soft ground, but the footsteps sounded bipedal. A growl sounded through the trees, and a heavy this as something hit the ground. Footsteps shifted to a more animalistic quadruped movement. In a flash of yellow eyes, white teeth, and beige fur, spotted with white, an unnatural large quoll appeared from the bushes. This quoll was huge, probably 6 feet tall, with an abdomen hunched. In its huge paw was a spear, long and impossibly sharp. Neutrino waves, thank you so much. Quoll leaned against the tree, standing on its 2 legs. I gasped And if it hadn't noticed me before, it did now. I knew what this creature was from old Aboriginal stories. Kinney Gear, the half quoll, half man hunter that would hunt down humans and large mammals, spearing them before ripping off their limbs and feasting on the helpless, still living meaty stumps. It sniffed the air, snarling as it approached my hiding spot. I shot up, jumped on my bike, and rocketed down the path. All the while, it ran behind me, climbing up trees and trying to jump onto my bike with me. My heart has never beat faster. Somewhere, I must have lost it. I didn't breathe, didn't dare to look behind me until I rode to town's main street. I have not told anyone this experience, but I am constantly questioning about why and how my backpack had been slashed. Lately, people and pets have been going missing in the area of this experience. The authorities believe it's some sort of death cult responsible, but I know better. I know that the Kinney Gear is responsible. All I hope is that soon the Quoll Man will leave in search of a new hunting ground. Quoll. I should have looked this up when I freaking Quoll. Quoll. Oh, it's like a marsupial. It's like a cat-like marsupial thing. If it's 6 foot tall, if this creature was 6 foot tall, it almost would look like a Dogman. Yeah, fuck that. I would not want to see this thing. No, thank you. No, thank you. Puppet Master movies are the greatest. I was just reading your message, Neutrino. My Jewel Jim Baker. Every week you ask the same question, brother. I like honey roasted peanuts. Arabic, I didn't even know where you went. I can't find any mango jewel pods. They don't make them anymore. I heard that Australia has them, but you have to have a prescription to get them in Australia. You got my honey roasted penis right here, Andy Davis. I got your penis. You dirty, dirty little boy. Zilla, thank you so much. Wow, you guys are amazing. Thank you for gifting all of these guys memberships and helping the channel. You don't need a prescription. Simone, can you do me a favor and see if they have mango jewel pods in Australia? Because if they do, I'm taking a trip. Oh, Wiley noticed the Faith No More shirt. The Gimp. Kind of looks like the guy from American Horror Story. I want to wear a Gimp suit. That'd be funny to do a live stream in a Gimp suit. That'd be so awesome. It's ask for Mango 59th. And it's Juul. I don't know why Faith No More has a GIMP. They just made this shirt like 2 years ago. And I've been kicking around the idea of buying it. And then finally I did. Thank you, Pops. Thank you. A man and his family are staying at a hotel. A man asked the front desk guy if their adult channels are disabled. The desk guy says, no, it's regular porn, you sick bastard. Oh my God, dude. Dude, you filthy, filthy beast, Aramek. I've done a couple videos on that, Jordy. I've actually had a guy on the channel talking about it. Thank you, Aramek. Or thank you, 59th. Washington State, California. Jelly Bean, how are you? I think most people know that we live in a matrix, so it's kind of... All right. I'm new here, guys, and I'd like to share my experience about a local cryptid in my area. I live near a tail end of the Appalachian Mountains in south central Kentucky. A 10-minute drive south of my house takes you into a world of steep cliffs and deep hollers, and some of the most beautiful scenery Kentucky has to offer. There's a particular spur that takes you deep into the forest and down into an ageless valley where the decaying remains of an old stone wall and collapsed dwellings overtaken by pines whisper the stories of the architects. Not much different from the surrounding areas, this particular spot is known to the locals as Kino due to the rich history in the area. It turned into one of my favorite areas to explore. For many years, I'd heard vague mentions or simple stories about a creature known as Kino Monster that supposedly dwelled in the area. I never put a second to the idea until one strange evening. I had been exploring the area with a friend known to have several abandoned buildings that were partially intact. My friend had shown me a cave that is believed to be a native burial site, an old cemetery from the early 1800s, and an old stone wall that appeared to mark out the edges of the property that had now become part of the forest. We're examining the remains of an old barn that was still standing, but unfortunately had been mostly stripped of its walls, leaving just the frame and the planks too high to reach without a ladder. It was starting to get dark, so we decided after a quick break that we'd head back to the car. Just as we start picking up our bags to get moving, I heard it. It sounded like a soft owl hooting, but I had never heard a species that sounded quite like it. It was too drawn out and slowed down, and its rhythm was not consistent. My friend quickly noticed this strange, almost howling sound now that seemed to be getting closer with each iteration of noises. At first, we thought it was funny. After a few moments of silence, we were laughing about how it sounded like a drunk owl. Then we heard it again, but much closer and from the other side of the barn area. It was different now, though, almost like a guttural groan at the end of its poorly mimicked owl sounds. This immediately sent chills up my spine. Even typing this out still makes my hair stand on end. Now, thoroughly creeped out, my friend and I started our fast-paced walk back down the trail to the car. The noises started fouling now, getting louder and impossibly changing direction of origin from one side of the trail to the other. We were trying to look and see how it was changing position so we could quickly, but couldn't detect any movement through the trees. Thankfully, we quickly reached the car, but the noises were still fouling, and had now seemed to come about 50 feet into the woods from where the car was. A guttural hooting had started turning into what sounded like a whimpering dog, like it was hurt or crying for help. I looked at my friend, who was also in disbelief and terror at what we were hearing. The whimpers started sounding angry, though, and transitioned into what is probably the scariest sound we had ever heard. The sound can only be described as something out of a horror movie. It sounded like gargling, almost human, psychotic moaning, followed by a rapid, deep, garbled breaths, and almost like it was slinging its head back and forth like a wild animal rapidly tearing into a carcass. It seemed to stay at the same distance, but me and my friend did not. We were in the car and down the road before even discussing it. I am still not sure of what this thing was, but I am glad I didn't find out. Some people I've told about this experience say that it was the Kino monster and that it was trying to lure us into the woods by sounding like an injured animal. I'm not sure, but I have never experienced anything like this since. Anyway, I hope that you guys get something from my experience. This experience happened 2018 in southern Pulaski County, Ohio, or southern Pulaski, Ohio, southern Pulaski County, Kentucky. No, Bigfoot and Dogman are practically the same size, Scott, so it would be impossible to do. Impossible. Oh, I gotta get another soda. I cannot believe, guys, whatever you do not buy this Mountain Dew. You will end up giving it to your kids. Oh my God. Tactful. It was filthy. No poop or footprints, Aramic. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. I know they're coming out with all these Halloween sodas now. Mexican Cokes are the best, buddy. I didn't get to the store to get mine tonight, buddy. I wish I did. You definitely can't, Tactful. They used to make a orange creamsicle Mountain Dew. Isabel loved that. I live in Virginia and recently had an experience with something in the forest around my house. I was outside smoking at around 2:30 with the only light source being that of my phone's flashlight. A few minutes passed and the forest sounds of bugs and crickets, etc., stopped. It became dead silent. I noticed, but didn't think much of it. A few seconds later, I began hearing twigs snap, not like big steps taken, but like small sticks crackling. Now, this isn't strange, as my house is situated next to a small wooded area that connects to a larger network of forests, making it common for me to encounter all kinds of common forest critters like possum, skunk, raccoons, deers, even coyote. However, this didn't stop me from becoming paranoid and anxious due to the sudden change in tone of the forest. Every now and then, something from my peripheral vision would shift or move, which only added to my growing paranoia. Then it came. I heard a very clear and loud whooping howl sound emerge from the forest twice. Now I became really freaked out and quickly finished up my ciggy and rushed inside before going into my room, locking the door. This happened a few weeks ago, and I've literally no explanation for it. I am used to the normal sounds from these animals in the woods, but this was totally different. The whole time I felt like I was being watched by something that was just out of sight. Andy Davis, Back in Black. Well connected. Here. Pineapple Fanta. I used to like pineapple soda a long time ago. Ugh. Okay. I don't want to scare that person that's right there. Make them shit themselves. They'll be like, because $20 is $20. Little Amazing Grace for them. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Jeb Smith, what's up, Jeb? Ooh, that's a song I should play. Beck. I'm going to learn how to play Beck on a Loser. Ooh, yeah. DB Mac, that one's for you, baby. Oh, God, my fucking mouth tastes like filth now. Ah, this one's fucking good right here. This one's good. About 2 months ago in my neighborhood, 3 children disappeared in the span of a week. Talk spread, and everyone assumed traffickers had kidnapped them. It was unreal hearing it because I saw those kids playing daily outside, especially seeing their moms cry. Well, just about 2 weeks after, at around 12:30 a.m., gunfire started ringing down the street from my house. It was a lot of gunfire. It was so close I could see the police lights reflecting off of the houses, but no sirens. I went outside. Other people were seeing what was happening too. I went up to the scene just being curious since I saw a man laying on the ground in the police lights. There was a man in a black hoodie lying down, 2 police officers at their vehicle on the radio, and a few others curious people. When I approached, police saw too many people coming out and yelling for everyone to get back into their house and out of the way. Hand on guns as threat display, I guess. They covered up the man's body with a black tarp immediately after. I just wanted to find out what happened. Luckily, one bystander gave me a few words in. He told me a woman whose kid went missing which was his cousin, was watching outside her window when she saw a suspicious man and called the police out of fear that it could be related to the kids being missing. Suspicious man was analyzing his surroundings and constantly licking his lips, looking for something. The guy that spoke to me saw everything unfold. Police arrived, tried to call the guy to question him, who was not responding and walking away while moving his head up and down. Police attempted to walk and stop him when he let out a loud scream and lashed out on them instantly, causing them to fire. The man was already covered up, so I could not see up close. However, the guy was scared to the core and started pulling out his phone. Scared to the core, started pulling out his phone. Look, it's not a man. I don't know. Well, what I saw was very shocking. The man had no hair and his skin color played tricks on my eyes. The guy had his flash on in the pictures and the man's skin was reflecting like a road sign, like a light green in color, a very weird texture. His skin was like a bunch of attached skin platelets, very visible. And the guy took about 7 photos. As he swapped them through the photos, you could see the man's skin plates shifting in color. Best way I can put it was exactly like an octopus skin up close under a microscope. And the shifting around was surreal. The eyes on him were soulless, like looking into an eagle or tiger's eyes, and his pupils reflected red in the photos, making it look more strange, combined with a lifeless face. Yeah, that's exactly Reptilian. I got a few of those tonight. Little bit of Delaware. About a year ago, I'm living in the East Coast, Delaware to be more specific. Having grown up in rural Indiana, I was a bit out of my element, but extremely excited to travel and broaden my horizons. I had no idea about reptilian cults or Anunnaki, nor did I really care about any conspiracies at this point. Anyway, I had just rented a cheap apartment and found a night shift job at a nearby restaurant, Chipotle. The dinner rush there was usually from 7 to 8 p.m., and it would get fairly busy. Anyway, one night I was busy getting my burrito making skills on and happened to look up and glance out the window. And there she was walking down the sidewalk, a 6-foot tall African-American woman in plain sort of elegant pastel olive colored dress, light skinned, almost caramel. Her hair looked as if it was a wig, shoulder length and frayed at the ends, but oddly pinned exactly straight against her head, like the wind outside had no effect. Also, way too shiny to be real. Nothing too odd. You tend to see stranger things around every corner in Delaware. So I continue to make the food order I was working on when all of a sudden I'm startled to the core by a flash of light that caught me off guard. I thought a customer had taken a picture of me or something. I looked around in a frustrated panic, as I had never been very photogenic, nor did I want my photo taken by some stranger. But to my surprise, no one was even paying attention to me. The customers I was prepping food for were already down the line, paying for their food, and I had absolutely no recollection or finishing the order. I stood there for a moment, trying to recount myself. Did I just lose time? Was I really not paying attention? Is there something wrong with my short-term memory? Did anyone else see that flashing light? WTF? My managers abruptly snaps me out of my crisis-like panic by asking me to grab steak from the walk-in. I do as instructed, and as I am heading back out to the front of the store, I see that tall lady I noticed a few moments earlier in the door. There was something off about her. I could not put my finger on it. Seeing her closer definitely changed her appearance. I hadn't noticed before, but she was effing ripped. The kind of built that doesn't look right on a woman. I mean, muscular beyond muscular. The skin on her face looked rough and dry, sort of bumpy, but it wasn't acne. And her face was elongated. Her jawline was fine and chiseled downward. At this point, I come to my own conclusion that maybe she just loves going to the gym and that I was judging her appearance harshly when I am in no position to place myself above others. I smile and greet her by asking her how she is. This is when she turned towards me and looked up. An unfamiliar yet comfortable buzzing began all around me, like cicadas buzzing in the fall. This experience would change my perspective on everything I thought I knew. Black eyes. I swear on everything. Black pupils, black retinas. The white part of the woman's eyes were black. Before my very own eyes, I watched the woman's face turn from bumpy to an almost plastic glossy look. Smooth material, and her skin turned into a palish grayish blue color. Goosebumps immediately took over the back of my neck and arms. That steady gaze into my soul would seem to go on for days. I felt as if I was being robbed of my internal privacy, depleted from the very fiber of my being, as if she was reading the written version of everything I call my own consciousness. She knew the entirety of my existence and could put an end to it in a second. And she made that very clear without saying a single effing word. She was telepathically forcing me to understand how insignificant we are as humans, how the human experience is one of the lowest tiers of consciousness. All of this happened within seconds. The closest thing I can compare to what she had me visualize would be a snippet of DMT trip. She had a mischievous undertone. I felt like I owed her something. I couldn't break eye contact. Was my brain deceiving me? Maybe I really was having a stroke. No, I was in a coma, or this was some sort of sick dream. This couldn't be real. I felt vulnerable for the first time in many years. She had some kind of sick power over me. She was draining me. She was still walking toward me, but she did not look away. I was still in shock. Never had I ever felt this powerless before. I remember feeling the weight of my body would soon make my knees buckle and I would collapse to the floor. In my mind, I was begging her repeatedly, pleading for her to stop this, whatever was happening. She grinned a twisted smile, unnatural. I'm looking at what appears to be her teeth, like something straight out of a movie, clean but shaped like thick spikes that fit together. Yeah, like a shark, I guess. She stopped to stand directly in front of me. She tilted her head to the right, my left, in an innocent way, and her pupils shrank back down right in front of me. She suddenly morphed back into the thing she was prior. I can only describe it as almost as if she had just sucked another face onto hers in a millisecond. Like she could control atoms at a level we could not fathom, turning them into whatever design. And before I knew it, the buzzing was gone. Her skin bumpy as had been before. Eyes still really dark shade, but proper shapes. I didn't get the opportunity to see her teeth again, as I am sure they looked somewhat like a regular person's now. Just a strange looking woman in front of me, still intimidating, still shedding bricks, still skeptical of what my eyes, ears, and brain had just witnessed. I was completely drained. I had no energy. My soul felt hollow. I felt pointless and confused. I walked back to the store while one of my coworkers finishes making food for her, as if none of any of what just happened, like everything was fine. I hear the lady's physical voice say something about lettuce, and I realize it's not anything close to her voice I was interpreting in my head. What the hell just happened? I tell my manager I have a family emergency and I have to leave. I would later receive a disciplinary write-up for leaving shift, but I had to get out of there. I never saw the lady again. For months, I questioned my sanity. In reality, I knew I couldn't tell anyone. I began to fall into a 6-month depression that I am now over. Mentally, I'm doing better than ever, but I still question what I saw that day, what I heard and felt. Who was she? And why did I see it? Was it because she allowed me to? Or was I hallucinating? Anyway, thank you. Nikola Tesla, how are you? Eunice, how are you? Oh, shit. Thank you for bringing that up. Let me make sure she's okay. Thank you. Oh, she had her knee replacement. Sorry, I just saw this. Eunice brought you up. I hope that you feel better. I can't wait to see you. I'm so glad your surgery went okay. Thanks, Eunice. Hey, Miss Shelley, how are you? Yeah, that is absolutely, the guys that shared it with me were awesome, but it was crazy. I don't listen to other channels, Maggie Mayhem. But thank you for sharing it. I can't. It'd be senseless for me to listen to other people's channels. What's up, Life and Time? Thank you, Trino. Nicholas Carroll, thank you so much, buddy. Oh, you guys are freaking awesome to me tonight. Thank you so much, guys. I got one that I want to share, but I want to save it kind of for a little bit. What time is it? You know what? Let's do a lot lizard story. Kelly Johnston, how are you, dear? Haven't seen you in a while in the live stream. Glad you're here with us. All right. I got 3 yeses, so I'll count that. I'm counting Zilla as a yes. All right. Let me see. All right, here we go. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Maggie. Thank you. Can you give him my email address? Can someone put my email address out, please? Because I'd like to hear it. It sounded like a channel, though. I'm sorry. Turbo Christ. I'm still getting that as a tattoo. Like, I just want, guys, when you look at Turbo Christ's name, don't you see Jesus like on a skateboard with like doing peace sign like this? Just like something out of the Dogma movie, you know? Oh, man. All right. This one took me like 3 days to write. I wrote this. I started Sunday morning because I had the idea of it, and I finished it like Tuesday. The fluorescent glow of the Eaton gas sign flickered over Lizo's empire. Not exactly a royal palace, but to her it was pure gold. Lizo, a woman built like a brick shithouse with a heart of solid chrome, reigned supreme over this particular stretch of asphalt and cheap coffee. Her throne, a stool behind the greasy splattered counter, from which she surveyed her kingdom. A gaggle of tired truckers, a couple of bored waitresses, and the usual assortment of road-weary souls seeking solace in a lukewarm chili in illicit company. Lizo wasn't a manager. She was the queen of the lot lizards. The title earned through years of shrewd deals, a legendary knack for spotting a lonely wallet from 50 paces, and a laugh that could rattle the fillings right out of your teeth. She knew every truck, every driver, and every secret this truck stop held. Tonight, however, the usual hum of diesel engines and country music felt off. Earl ought to be here soon, she muttered, polishing a chipped mug with a practiced flick of her wrist. Earl, her beloved, a man whose biceps were as big as her head and whose heart was even bigger, was due back from a cross-country haul. He was her steady, her rock, her perfectly symmetrical flannel-clad hunk of man. Their love story wasn't a fairy tale, but it was honest, loud, and often involved shared platters of deep-fried pickles. Outside, the darkness pressed in, broken only by a yellow glare of distant headlights. A peculiar smell, like stale meat in desperation, wafted through the open door. Lizo frowned. Usually a worse smell was old man Henderson's socks. Then a low moan. Not the usual groan of a trucker after a long haul, but something guttural. Lizo peered out and her brow furrowed. A figure stumbled into the pool of light beside a parked rig, moving with an unnatural jerking gait. It wasn't drunk, it was broken. Like clothes were torn, its skin a sickly gray, and its eyes held vacant, hungry glint. Well, ain't you a sight for sore eyes, Lizo drawled. More out of habit than welcome. Lost your way, honey? Or just had a real bad day? Figure ignored her, shuffling toward a parked 18-wheeler. It began to paw at the truck's rear, making soft, disturbing whispers. Another figure, equally disheveled, joined in. Then another. They weren't looking at the driver's side. They weren't looking for brains. One of them, a woman whose former blonde hair was now matted with grime, let out a shriek that peeled the paint. Booty hole! She wailed, her voice a raspy echo of a human speech. Lizo's jaw dropped. Another zombie started chiming in, a raising chorus of ass and truckers' buns. Gimme that haul. A trucker named Rusty, who just emerged from his cab from a smoke break, froze. His cigarette tumbled from his lips. One of the zombies lunged at him, not for his throat, but for, well, you can guess. Rusty's shriek was less of a scream of terror and more like a high-pitched squeal of violated personal space. He scrambled back into his cab, fumbled with the locks. Oh, hell no, Lizo roared, snatching a rolling pin from behind the counter. Y'all done lost your minds. We got strict no unsolicited probing policy here. But the horde was growing. They swarmed the truck stop. Their moans for booty call and backdoor service echoed with a horrifying clarity. The truckers, initially confused, quickly grasped the unique horror of the situation. These wasn't brain-eating apocalypse. It was a butt-craven one. Get behind the counter, Lizo commanded, her voice cutting through the rising panic. Grab something, anything. A waitress named Brenda, whose usual weapon was a snarky comment, brandished a can of industrial-strength hairspray. and a lighter, creating a makeshift flamethrower. "Nobody touches my ass," she screeched, unleashing a fiery spray. Lizo swung her rolling pin with surprising agility, thwacking a particular persistent zombie in the kneecap. It crumbled, but another immediately took its place, its vacant eyes fixed on the trucker's denim-clad backside. The truck stop devolved into a chaotic comedy. Truckers, usually tough as nails, were scrambling onto tables, blocking their rear ends with chairs or attempting to climb the shelving units. One particular intuitive driver, a weary fella named Skeeter, managed to jam a zombie's head into the deep fryer, briefly silencing the pleas, "Some sweet rear end freight." But it was a losing battle. The sheer number of butt-hungry undead was overwhelming. Lizo, puffing and sweating, found herself cornered near the soda machine, wielding a rusty tire iron like a goddess of vengeance. "You want a piece of this?" she hollered, narrowly avoiding a grabby hand. "You'll have to go through a whole Lizo first." Just as a particularly large, reanimated gentleman trucker with a yearning for good old backdoor adventure lunged for her, a familiar roar shook the building. The sound of an 18-wheeler's air horn, louder than any thunderclap, ripped through the night. "Earl!" she screamed. A surge of hope flooded her. A massive Peterbilt painted a gleaming crimson burst through the zombie-clogged entrance, scattering the undead like bowling pins. It skidded to a halt, its powerful engine idling, its chrome glinting under the lights. Earl, a mountain of a man with a beard that could definitely hide a small family of squirrels, leapt from the cab, a custom-made, monster-sized wrench clenched in his hand. "Nobody lays a finger on my Lizo lot or her booty," he boomed, his voice rumbling like an earthquake. The zombies, momentarily stunned by the truck's arrival, turned their attention to fresh meat. But Earl wasn't just big, he was smart. As they swarmed him, he didn't just swing, he had a plan. He leaned onto the hood of his truck, then scrambled to the top of his cab. With a mischievous grin, he reached down and pulled the lever. A blast of compressed air hissed, and from the exhaust pipes, two massive, flexible hoses extended. At the end of each hose was what looked like a giant inflatable rubber ducky. But not just any rubber ducky. These were extra large, extra plump, and painted the most nourished neon green, heart-laden target zones imaginable. "All right, you hungry bastards," Earl roared. "Here's your booty holes, fresh and ready for your enthusiasm." He activated a remote, and the rubber ducks began to inflate rapidly, wiggling from the exhaust stacks. The zombies, their dim, single-minded brains overwhelmed by the sheer, unadulterated bootiness of giant decoys, diverted their attention immediately. They clawed and gnawed. They humped the giant rubber ducks with an unsettling fever, their moans turning into a chorus of oddly satisfied grunts. Lizo stared, dumbfounded. "Earl, you magnificent sumbitch!" With the zombies distracted by their inflatable conquests, Earl jumped down, grabbing a shovel. "Now for cleanup." Together, Lizo and Earl, a force of nature and a man with a plan for inflatable distractions, worked. Lizo cleared the remaining stragglers with savage efficiency, while Earl used his Peterbilt to herd the duck-obsessed zombies out of the truck stop and toward the empty fields beyond, revving his engine and blasting his horn to keep their attention on the wriggling rubber targets. By the time the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and orange, the truck stop was silent once more, save for a distant, muffled groan of the zombies finding internal solace with synthetic derrieres in the cornfield. The eat and gas sign still flickered, though, now a few letters short. Lizo leaned against Earl, covered in sweat and a little bit of zombie goo, but triumphant. "You saved my ass, Earl, literally." Earl chuckled, kissing her forehead. "Always, my queen. You think they'll be back?" Lizo surveyed her battered but still open kingdom. Probably, but now we know their weakness. We just got to stock up on some more cargo for them. She cracked a grin. And maybe get a bigger air horn just in case. Truckers slowly emerged, dazed but alive, looking at Lizo and Earl with a newfound respect. The queen of the lot lizard truck stop prostitutes and the trucker king saved the day, proving that even a zombie apocalypse is not a match for true love, a rolling pin, and a strategically placed oversized inflatable rubber ducky. And probably a hell of a story for the next truck stop gossip session. Oh. I got one more good one. Speaking of chili, did you know that Wendy's chili is now in a can? Delirium, have a great night. Thank you for popping in tonight. I hope you're feeling better. Wendy's chili in a can. In beanless, no less. Beanless chili, no less. For real, Zilla. I'm not kidding. Guess who's back? Tell a friend. Claire Harris is back. Yeah, but I don't know if it's good out of a can. Jermaine, how are you? I like beans too. They're the magical fruit. Ah, here we go. I was hiking in Olympic National Forest a few years ago by myself and my two dogs. We were 4 days in, around 20 miles at least as the crow flies from even a known mountain road. I was camping at around 7,000 feet that night, or right where the tree line started to thin out. So when we got the campsite, a big open meadow on the top of a secondary mountain, it was about an hour from sunset. My big dog usually runs around within the proximity of camp as I put the tent up, making dinner, etc. But I noticed this time it was a little different. He kept staring up this steep tree-filled mountainside, tail straight up and barking. Not the bark he sees when he sees marmots. Not the excited, oh, you little MFers, you're lucky because I'd rip you all apart if my master wasn't here. High-pitched barks, but unsure, concerned barks. Now, the day before, I had found a note left under a rock at the last landmark saying that there was a problem bear in the area that was harassing a party of campers a few days ago. And I myself had seen a big cat track a few days before. So I was rightfully concerned that this may be more than just ground squirrels. I decided to go and climb up some of the boulders at the foot of the hill while I took my time looking up the mountainside for movement. Before I went to go hang my bear bag up there were only trees around to hang a bag. I didn't see or hear anything, but my dog kept quietly whining like there was something up there. So while still concerned, I started hiking up the steep hill to hang my bear bag. It was so steep, I had to use the trees to balance and lean against so I didn't go tumbling down before making another 5 or 6 step push to the next tree I could lean against. Anyway, I'm slowing, making it up this hill, hoping for a tree to keep my balance. Then I get about 100 feet up the hill, and I hear a whole bunch of big movement about 50 feet in front of me. My dog immediately goes from deep low growl to savage slobber flying everywhere type of barking. My heart starts pounding out of my chest, and I start to panic. A million thoughts go racing through my head in a matter of seconds. Because if this is a bear, my dog is still going to try to save me, in which he will most likely die. And I am stuck here. If I have to get off this hillside fast, I am almost 100% going to trip and fall off a 12 to 15-foot cliff onto some boulders. So I'm feeling pretty screwed about now. Then I hear my other little dog start barking and freaking out down by the campsite, which was out of sight. I had zipped her in the tent, so she did not wander off while I was away. So yeah, I'm absolutely panicked at this point. A few seconds after, I kind of snap back to it, and I take another few seconds to start to pull my survival priorities in order and call my dog back to me. Loki, by the way, is his name. He comes and sits against my feet as my back is against the tree. So I'm kind of pinned, stuck there for a moment. But my dog was seemingly trying to separate me from something up there, so I let him lean against me while I tried to collect myself. This is when I realized I had completely forgotten that I had my headlamp on. I reach up so fast, I turn it on. I basically punch myself in the face. I'm having some serious adrenaline dumps going on right now, so much so that my knees are starting to shake. I get my lamp on and peer up the hillside. I figure I'll at least get a reflection of the eyes off of whatever is up there. Peering, nothing. But I had just heard something we both did. And whatever it was, it didn't get away or sound like it had made it too far. I knew something was out there. So I kind of just steadfast at this point. I need to know what is up here because I have to sleep there tonight. You know, I am out in the middle of nowhere. Better to face it than wait till you're a sitting duck at night, is my thought. So yeah, as I'm looking up this hill, and at one point my dog lunges forward, unpinning me. He does a fake bluff charge up the hill about 15 feet, and I mean he is snarling and foaming at the mouth at this point. As he does this, I finally see movement, something moving up and breaking the tree line of the horizon sunset. My dog's bluff made whatever it was blow its cover. So I'm zeroed in. I call my dog back to silent watch, and what I could make out made my heart completely drop. There was a man crouched 75 feet directly in front of me, wearing not camo clothes, but some raggedy shit that blended into the environment perfectly, almost like a makeshift ghillie suit by stuff he'd found in the woods. I couldn't see his eyes, and his face was covered in dirt or something, but I knew we were staring at each other at this moment. So I stare for what seems like minutes, no words. I felt like I was trying to subconsciously convey that I was going to stand my ground. I wanted him to know I saw what I saw, but I guess I was too shaken to speak. As I am staring, my little dog back at camp starts barking its head off again, like she was scared. And I also had to get off this hill before dark, so I could be seriously hurt or risk dying trying to get down. Carefully, I start heading down the hill with my dog, who doesn't want to leave but listens. Periodically, I would stop with my back against the tree holding me up and look in that direction again. So to make it even more clear, I saw it. And eventually, I make it down the boulders at the bottom. By that time, I finally jumped down and hit the boulders. My little dog had stopped barking. I could only see the top of my tent from the boulders. I thought she was barking just to bark. Dachshunds do that. Or just barking back at my other dog. But when I get there, my little dog had somehow gotten out of the tent and was walking around the camp growling, with her tail sticking straight out. Still trying to hold it up together, I thought. Maybe she just got her nose between the zippers and worked her way out. But I was positive I had zipped it so the zipper tap openings were at the very top of the door out of reach. So, in a mixture of being terrified, pissed off, and the feeling of needing to do something, I reached into my day bag and pulled out my 40. I fire a single shot into the air as the sun was setting. Climb into my tent without eating and laying with my gun next to me. As soon as the sun came out, I packed my shit to leave. Heading back down the mountain, it sucked. It was all downhill, but I still couldn't cover ground to get back. I still couldn't cover the ground to get back to my car in one day. It was dark by the time I made it to last camp, about 4 miles from my vehicle. But thankfully, there was other people there. We sat around the fire they had made, and I felt pretty relieved and safe. They start to tell me that they are planning to head that way, where I was just there the night before. So I tell them my experience. Needless to say, we are both walking back to our cars that morning. Screw it all. The thing that still creeps me out to this day, though, is when I got home and started reading reviews on the hike I was on. Other people had similar experiences like mine as well. Even a man found dead from a fall around the same boulder range 2 years ago, and a woman was found mauled the year before. Thank you. All right, so now we've got more people. We got more people in. I just want to thank Tina again. Tina Marie sent me a beautiful handmade clock for my birthday. Beautiful handmade clock. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. Ugh. Ugh. Damn it. Oh, it's awesome. You guys are amazing. Well, there's some clocks that just have the 4 life and times. Like I have a watch that just says 12, 3, 6, 9. So if you know how to read like a regular clock, I could tell time on that very easily. Thank you, Neutrino. I may do an hour live stream on my birthday. I'm not sure yet. I hear you, life and times. I go like this though. I go like this at the sun, and I use the shadow on my forearm to tell the time. So I'm like this, and then if it's like over here, I'll put my hand out, and over here, you know. Thank you, Nikolai. I don't like those smart watches. I like regular watches. Old school watches are the way to go. I don't need to call somebody. Like, look like Batman. Call mom. Eunice, Janie thanked you for thinking of her. I just texted Shackle Neck. Ugh. He looks like Santa Claus, Andy. Hang on, I gotta get this. I'm gonna show you this. So I told you guys about this, and this is the little creature that Eddie carried from the Munsters, and Shackleneck gave this to me. It's the original doll from the Munsters too, I believe. Because he's friends with the dude that played Eddie from the Munsters. This is my little buddy. Shackleneck said hi to everybody. No, I have pictures of me with the real Annabelle doll, though, Neutrino. All right, this is the one I wanted to save for a little bit. What's up, Robert Sharp? How are you, buddy? Yeah, I went to the Conjuring house, the real Conjuring house, and had a blast there with my daughter. Well, it was actually scary. And then we went to the Warren Museum. All right. My boyfriend experienced something very strange, and I am reaching out to see if anyone else has had an experience similar. This occurred in northwestern North Carolina in 2012. He and his partner at the time were sleeping in bed. They were in a bedroom that had French doors that opened to a backyard, facing a large piece of the property, 7 acres, with a stream that comes straight down the mountain from an aquifer. He awoke randomly and saw two red eyes pass by the window of the French doors somewhere between 7 to 8 feet off the ground. The door opened as a very intense vibration started, and he sat up to scream but could not hear himself yelling. He could see his cat at the edge of the bed hissing. His partner did not stir. The vibration caused him to fall back, and he passed out. He woke up face down on the bed with his head turned toward the edge of the mattress. He was unable to move. A figure rose and was completely out of focus a few inches from his face, almost like it was camouflaged. He states its motion was so unnaturally fluid he could see his surroundings, but could not focus on the creature. He explains it as the creature was out of focus in a photograph. He then unfocused his eyes and used his peripheral vision and was able to see the creature clearly. He states that it had brown-green coloring with scales and a worn, pockmarked face, bright red eyes that glowed. When he saw the creature, he was able to really decipher what he was looking at. It opened its very large mouth and gave him a toothy smile. He says he felt its energy, that it was amused at him for figuring out how to see it. The vibration began again as he watched the creature sink back out of view below the edge of the mattress before passing back out from the frequencies. He awoke several hours later, and his partner had no idea anything had occurred. He said the entire time he felt no emotion, no fear, no anger, nothing. He says he knows something violent happened to him, and he thinks they wanted to take him but didn't. He had rows of red dots across the back and states that it looked like he had laid on a bed of nails. His partner at the time saw the markings as well. He assumes this type of humanoid creature came from the underground and travels and lives through cave systems out here. We know there's got to be some sort of opening in the land where the aquifer exits and the water flows down from the property. This is his father's property, about 10 acres. We live across the street, and I lock my doors out of paranoia now. The correlation between missing people around cave systems is unsettling, and I wonder if this has anything to do with any of those experiences. Years later, in 2024, I laugh out loud and cry at the fact that I now live in that house where it happened. Mr. Haunted was here. There he is. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I think I'm let me see. I don't know. Why isn't it opening up for me? I'm exactly 200 away. 200 away. Andy, stop going crazy tonight, dude. Fucking wild, man. Mr. Haunted! Love you, brother. I definitely want to see Australia. They just, speaking of spiders, they just found these weird spiders called mine spiders. Well, they didn't just find them, but there's a whole new species like the wandering spider. They're related to the wandering spider, but they live in caves and mines, and they're like 4 inches. Their bodies are like 4 inches, not their legs, but their bodies. And they're absolutely huge and poisonous. So bigger than, like that big, bigger than a tarantula. Well, I want to go there, Nicole. I just want to go there. Yeah, just absolutely huge. I think they found them in a Kentucky cave. So all together, in their legs, their weird legs were like really long. their legs were like, they kind of like went straight out as they like would lay. So like most spiders lay flat and their 8 legs kind of sprawl out. These would put their 8 legs straight out like that. I was talking about a spider, Andy Davis. And they're related to the wandering spider. Quick backstory. My dad is a retired park ranger, if that's what you call it. He worked for a National Park Service up until 3 years ago. His usual tasks involved taking people on tours along the Appalachian Trail, maintaining forestry and wildlife habitats that live there. Anyway, the experience goes back to the summer of 2003, when my dad and a colleague, let's call him John, were sent out to try and locate an adult elk, a male named Billy by the locals, who was usually very tame and was often found close to homes, but had not been seen for over a week. This was apparently very unusual. So my dad was dropped off along the trail while John took the truck and drove further up, about 5 miles, in order to try and locate the elk. They had been searching all day for him, and this was the last stop of the day, as there was only a few hours left of daylight. As the experience goes, my dad had been walking along the trail for a little over an hour when he heard a disturbance in the distance off to the left. He could hear the snapping of tree branches, so decided to follow where the noises were coming from, in hopes that it could be Billy the elk. As they got closer, he began to smell a foul odor and instinctively knew that it was some sort of dead animal. He was right. Lying on the ground in a small opening of trees was the carcass of a large elk. He could see the tag on one of its ears, and sure enough, it was Billy the elk. However, he was immediately shocked by the condition the animal was in. The elk had been severely mauled. Eyes and tongue had been gouged out, throat torn out, stomach had been ripped open. All the intestine protruded onto the floor of the ground. He also noticed that little chunks of flesh had been bitten from the torso. The entire front right leg was missing. He reasoned that the animal had been attacked by either a black bear or a coyote, as nothing else could tackle a full-grown adult elk. However, this seemed strange because elk are usually too big for even an apex predator to take them down. But he thought that maybe a hungry pack of coyote may, if they were starving. What disturbed him further was the way in which the animal had been mutilated after death. My dad made it a point of saying that he had never witnessed anything quite like it, and that it was very unusual for predators to mutilate a corpse in such a way. Feeling unnerved by the discovery, my dad radioed John and told him that he had located the animal before giving him his approximate location. John told him that he had wandered off the beaten track and that it would take him about an hour to get back to where the truck was parked to drive to his location. So my dad was told to wait there until John could get him. It was almost dark at this point, and my dad remembered beginning to get a very unsettling feeling. He had a flashlight with him, some bear spray, but noted that he still felt very vulnerable in the woods. After 15 minutes or so, he heard the same noises he had heard earlier, much closer now as he was off the trail. He would hear footsteps and an occasional growl of something hidden within the thick brush straight ahead of him. He said that every so often he could hear slow breathing and snapping of branches as whatever it was paced the forest floor. He began to get the feeling that he was being watched and worried that coyotes or perhaps even a bear was now stalking him. He said that every so often he would wave his flashlight in the direction of the disturbance and yell in order to try and scare it off. However, the noises still persisted, and this seemed to aggravate the creature. Luckily, the animal never came any closer to reveal itself to him, simply pacing around in the darkness, letting out an occasional growl. Over an hour later, a truck pulled along the trail, and my dad could see to his relief that John was now following the flashlight where he stood. The arrival of another person must have spooked this creature, as he noticed hearing crunches of leaves moving quickly away. He told him what happened, and the men reasoned that it had to have been a bear, and they probably shouldn't be hanging out. Together, they wrapped the corpse in cloth and managed to haul it to the back of the truck. My dad said that they just were getting ready to leave. Curiosity came over him, and he decided to walk over to where the sounds were coming from. John got out as well, and the two of them scoured the area. Behind a fallen log, they found a half-chewed leg of that dead elk, along with a number of discarded fragments of whatever this animal was. Further back into the trees, they found more. They also discovered remnants of more body parts of other animals. This terrified my dad, the realization that this creature had been standing so close to him that had mutilated this full-sized elk, and it had been watching him from the bushes and growling, so much so that he and John had agreed never to mention the encounter to anybody. My dad has told me that not a day goes by that he does not think about what he saw that day, and he still struggles to comprehend what was out there in the middle of nowhere, how they had managed to kill that elk, and what their intentions were towards my dad. We relocated from the area in 2005, now reside in Richmond, Virginia. My dad has not been back since and says that he will never walk the Appalachian Trail again. I can't blame him, to be honest. Anyway, thank you. George, what's up? How are you, buddy? Well, what time is it? 2:19? 2:13? I think we'll do one. We'll do the last lot lizard story, and then maybe a couple of the last experiences I have for the skin. about ready to take. Hang on 1 second, guys. All right, here we go. What's up, Five Rings? What's up, brother? How are you? All right, here we go. Last lot lizard story of the night, and then I got a couple other experiences to share. I'm doing well. The air at the Big Rig Betty's Bovine Bistro and Truck Stop usually hummed with a comforting symphony of idle diesel engines, the clatter of cutlery, and the soulful twang of country music. But tonight, a different kind of electricity crackled through the bruised twilight sky. Tonight, the Queen was in residence. Lizo, with a name as grand as her spirit, wasn't just a lot lizard. She was the lot lizard. Her domain stretched from the furthest fuel pump to the last greasy spoon, and every trucker who rolled through knew to offer a respectful nod. She commanded attention, not with brute force, but with the unshakable confidence, a booming laugh that could shake the chrome off a semi, and the eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 highways. Her current squeeze, Earl, a man whose beard was more illustrious than his driving record, sat beside her, blissfully oblivious to the strange atmospheric pressure building around them. "Another slice of peach cobbler, sugar?" Earl rumbled, his voice a gravelly purr. His hand reached for her knee under the Formica table. Lizo, in her sequenced denim jacket that shimmered even the dim diner light, slapped his hand playfully. "Earl, honey, you're going to need a whole new set of teeth if you keep acting like that," she quipped. Her lips curved into a smile. She took a slow sip of her lukewarm coffee, her gaze sweeping the diner. The usual suspects were here. Rusty, who swore by his rig psychic GPS, Brenda, whose truck's dashboard was a shrine to miniature porcelain frogs, and a dozen other road warriors, all lost in their own worlds of coffee and condemnation. All except for Lizo missed the subtle shift of the air, the way the shadows seemed to deepen just a little too much around the edges of the parking lot. A sudden gust of wind hollowed, rattling the windows. A flicker of movement caught Lizo's eyes. Small, dark shapes scuttled between the parked trucks. Too fast for raccoons, too low for stray dogs. She narrowed her eyes. A prickle of unease ripped through the air. A peace she had cultivated, the sanctuary she had carved out of the asphalt and exhaust fumes, felt challenged. Then came the sound, not a howl, not a growl, but high-pitched, chittering shriek that sent jolt down Lizo's spine. It was a sound that made the hairs on the trucker's neck stand up on end, a sound that promised mischief, malice, and a nasty case of the Mondays. "What in tarnation was that?" Earl muttered, finally tearing his gaze from the last dollop of whipped cream in his cobbler. Before Lizo could answer, chaos erupted. From under the chassis of the gleaming Peterbilt, a creature darted out. It was no bigger than a bulldog, with leathery green-gray skin, sharp claws, and eyes that glowed a malevolent yellow. Its snarl revealed rows of needle-sharp teeth. It was a gremlin, and it was rabid. One quickly became 5, then 10, then a whole damn pack. They swarmed the parking lot like a grotesque living oil slick. Their chittering grew into a cacophony, a symphony of destruction. Headlights were smashed, tires were slashed with fury, precise swipes of their claws. One vicious gremlin with a missing ear and a glint in its eye leapt onto Brenda's frog-fashioned dashboard and began to decapitate the porcelain amphibians. Brenda let out a shriek that would curdle Diesel. "Oh, hell no," Lizo declared, her voice cutting through the rising panic. This was her turf. These were her truckers, and nobody messed with her frogs. The gremlins, by their initial success, began to move toward the diner itself, their glowing eyes fixed on the warmth, the food, and the terrified humans inside. One daring creature, froth dripping from his jaws, scaled the wall and began gnawing at the neon bovine bistro sign, causing it to sputter and die. "They're coming for us," Rusty yelled, fumbling with a tire iron he kept under the seat. Earl, bless his sweet, simple heart, instinctively pulled Lizo closer, a gesture more protective than effective against the horde of demonic furballs. But Lizo was not scared, not truly. She was incensed. This wasn't just a truck stop, it was home. And nobody violated it. Not even a pack of rabid chaos magic-wielding gremlins was going to violate her main squeeze or her community. "All right, you filthy little ankle biters," Lizo bellowed, her voice amplified by something primal. She grabbed a serving tray from a bewildered waitress, wielding it like a gleaming shield. "You want to play rough? Lizo plays rougher." The gremlins paused, their chittering tapered off slightly as the sheer force of her personality hit them. They had expected fear, easy targets. They got a queen. With a roar that riveted the revving 18-wheeler, Lizo charged. Her first target, a gremlin, destroying Brenda's ceramic frogs. With a mighty swing of that tray, she brought it down with a satisfying clank of the metal and something squishy. The gremlin let out a yelp and skittered away, leaving a trail of green slime and ceramic shrapnel. Earl, recovering from the initial shock, watched in awe as his queen became a whirlwind of a sequenced fury. She moved with just surprising agility, a natural grace honed by the years of navigating crowded diners and slippery parking lots. She kicked a gremlin off the gas pump with a perfectly aimed boot. She used a discarded frying pan to deflect another attempting to slash Earl's truck tire. But the gremlins were relentless. One particularly nasty specimen, smaller but faster than the rest, darted past Lizo, its beaded eyes locked onto Earl. It scaled his leg, its claws digging into his jeans. Earl yelped, trying to shake it off. The gremlin was drooling, its tiny, sharp teeth gnashing at the fabric of his trousers, aiming for something personal. "Get your scaly paws off my man," Lizo shrieked, her voice laced with pure, unadulterated venom. This was it. This was the line. They could smash windows, key trucks, even decimate porcelain frogs, but no one touched Earl. She spun, snatching a bright pink feathered boa from the back seat of her own souped-up sedan, a gift from the grateful drag queen trucker last week. With the precision of a seasoned whipmaster, she cracked it through the air. The feathers whistled. The gremlin on Earl's leg, startled by the sudden, fabulous attack, lost its grip. As it fell, Lizo brought the boa down again, tangling it around the creature's scaly little neck. She reeled it in, and then, with a mischievous glint in her eyes, she pulled out her phone. "You want to violate something? Let's see how you like the sound of this jam." She cranked up the volume on a pre-saved track, a full blast of Truth Hurts. The bass dropped, vibrating through the asphalt, rattling the gremlins to their very core. The creature caught in the boa shrieked, covering its ears. The other gremlins used to relative quiet of the truck stops recoiled. Their sensitive hearing was overwhelmed. Lizo, with a triumphant grin, flung the boa-wrapped gremlin to the nearest dumpster. Empowered, the other truckers, galvanized by Lizo's fearless leadership and sheer absurdity of the situation, found their courage. Rusty, wielding his tire iron like a broadsword, chased a gremlin away from the fuel pump. Brenda, still mourning the loss of her frogs, brandished a whisk and pepper spray. turning it into a pint-sized furious warrior. Lizo, meanwhile, became a one-woman gremlin dispersal unit. She used her powerful voice to project booming commands. Want to trash this place? Honey, my clapbacks are sharper than your little claws, she hollered. She slammed the car door shut on a particularly aggressive gremlin's tail. She then grabbed a nearby air horn, unleashing ear-splitting blasts that sent the creature scattering, disoriented and screeching. She moved with purpose, her sequence jacket flashing under the emergency lights now, flickering on the damaged trucks. She rounded up stragglers with a broom, her battle cry, a melodic yet fierce, "Feeling good as hell," echoed through the parking lot. The remaining gremlins, their chaotic energy falling against Lizo's sheer force of will and the ear-splitting music, began to retreat, slinking back into the shadows from whence they had came, their rabid yellow little eyes dimming in defeat. As the last chittering faded into the night, the exhausted truckers slowly emerged, surveying the wreckage. Headlights were cracked, a few tires flat, and Brenda's frog collection was definitely a write-off. But no one was seriously hurt. And Earl, his trousers mercifully intact, was still by Lizo's side, staring at her with hero worship in his eyes. "Lizo, you saved us! Again!" Earl stammered. Lizo brushed a piece of gremlin gunk off her jacket. "Honey, you think a few overgrown rats with anger issues is going to mess with the Queen's big rig Betty? Not on my watch." She pulled him close, planting a firm kiss on his forehead. "Now, where's the peach cobbler at? All that ass kicking made me hungry." The truckers murmured their thanks, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others already forming the legend that they would tell for years. The truck stop was a mess, but this spirit remained unbroken, thanks to Lizo, the queen who had faced down rabid gremlins with a feather boa, frying pan, and a blast of pure, unadulterated Lizo. And as for Earl, he knew, more than ever, that his main squeeze was not just the love of his life, but the fiercest, most fabulous protector of a trucker could ever dream of. Tomorrow, they'd fix the damage. Tonight, they'd bask in the glow of the Queen's triumph under the sky where the stars seemed to shine a little bit brighter. Stanley, how are you? Thank you, Jess B. The Valkyrie. That's funny. Oh. Stacy Face, how are you? I'm glad you guys like that one. Thank you, STL. All right, let me see what I got. Date. All right. I saw a car in Florida that I want really bad. It's I actually emailed the guy. Hang on one second. Let me tell you what it was. Okay, so the guy in Florida, a dealership in Florida, has a 1994 Ford Escort RS Cosworth that I want. I won't ever be able to afford it, but I figured I'll just email him and make him think that I can. Definitely. Definitely. Thank you, Sonia. John, I don't think you can put emails in the in the um in the chat. I think YouTube blocks it. If I don't know, but I just write the Lizo stories, Turbo Christ. The experiences are other people's experiences. An Escort ZX2 is different than a Cosworth. The Cosworth, the Ford Escort, the 1994 Ford Escort RS Cosworth is a rally sport car. They're all-wheel drive, and a Cosworth engine is just the freaking baddest fucking engine ever made, besides the rotary engine from an RX-7. Never know, Jeff cause God be good all the time, maybe. Sometime, someday. I wish I kind of never bought my Forester though, because I have a Forester Wilderness, and it's just like I'm making payments on it, and I hate it. They didn't make them very often. There's only a couple thousand of them. Yeah, I can't afford a $40,000 car, Turbo Christ. I have to make payments on it. I wish I didn't. I had an older Forester. I had a 2012 that had like 68,000 miles on it. I loved it. I got rear-ended, and I went to the Subaru dealership to get it fixed, and the insurance company scrapped it. And I bought a Subaru Forester Sport, which I hated, and the engine would turn off every time it rained for some reason. So then I traded that in, or I made them take it and fix it, but they couldn't. So they gave me, I said I wanted the Wilderness, and the only one they had it had everything in it, which I didn't need, but they had like the Harman Kardon system in it and everything else. So I got a 71 pickup, 71 Chevy Stargazer. I love Foresters. Foresters are great. I love them. I don't like how people like say that the liberal people drive Subarus, because like Forester or Subarus are awesome cars. I don't know about that, Pine Knot. I would rather have my Forester over a Ford Escape or a Ford Explorer any day. But that Ford Escort is savage. I have put cameras up there, Van Turner. I have video of it. Let me see. You guys probably won't be able to see the truck, but boop. Let me see. Hang on 1 second. There it is. Let me see. You might be able to see it. Boop. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see it that good. Probably not with the glare. But that's the 71. You can't see it with the glare. It's in my community post. I do, Sonia. I do. I just always liked them. Subarus in upstate New York are the cars to use. Up here. Rancheros. We glare at the glare. The 97 Impreza. Holy shit, a 42-gallon gas tank? Jeez, crow. Thank you, Zilla. Let me try to find it. Good night, Zilla. Thank you for showing up tonight. Appreciate you. One of my nephews, 18, Highlander. Highlanders are awesome. I like Toyotas too. Toyota owns 20% of Subaru, though. I think that's pretty awesome. Hey, don't joke about the Suzuki Samurai. My favorite new Deftones on that album is, it's on my playlist right now. My favorite new song on their new album is Cut Hands. Cut Hands is awesome. Ow, fuck my leg. Oh. I just got a fucking muscle spasm. Oh, damn. That didn't feel good. Oh, fuck my face. Oh. It's all right. The new Deftones album is all right. I would say it's better than the last couple they put out. Thank you, Steve Fire. I think it's not as good as like Adrenaline, Around the Fur. It's like, or Like Linus. Like Linus is my favorite Deftones album ever. Gorillaz is coming out with a new album, though. Probably not tonight. I'm not going to do any more. I'm going to do a couple more experiences and I'm done. Oh. Dude, it hurt. It was in the back of my calf too. Night, Neutrino. This took place last year at the beginning of summer. I was with my mom, headed down to Nana's farm to visit for the weekend. For some context, she lives on a farm way back in the country, right at the foot of a mountain in rural South Carolina. It's really rural. Secluded area, so the roads are badly maintained and barely wide enough for two cars to pass one another. The houses are also spread out and set far back into the tree line from the road, so there's very little ambient light beside the headlights of the cars. So my mom and I are driving along, her in her driver's seat, me in the passenger. It's around 11 p.m., and we're about 15 minutes out from Nana's. Deep in the woods with the radio down, almost to silent, we come onto a straight stretch of road in a heavily wooded area, and suddenly a blur of a creature darts out across the road, right at the edge of our headlights. It was moving pretty good, but both me and my mom were able to get a good look at it and both agree on what we saw. It was a fairly large creature, roughly the size of a person, maybe bigger. Neither of us could make out its head, but we both remember it appeared to have a segmented body, my mom's words, as if it were emaciated and its rib cage was poking out. The reflection of the light made it hard for me to tell its color, but my mom said she remembered it to be dark and she did not see fur or hair. It had long limbs, and as it moved across the road, it didn't run the way a dog or a horse would with four legs. Best word to describe it was loping, using its front limbs to pull itself along, and was moving considerably fast. We both said something along the lines of, "What the hell is that?" as it crossed in front of us. As we got up to where it had crossed, I turned to look at it just as it reached the other side of the road out of the headlights. And I swear on my life, it stood up and ran, not like a dog rearing on its hind legs. It was definitely bipedal. I immediately yelled that it had stood up, and we both started getting nervous. I honestly would have thought I was going insane had I not been with my mom. My mom has always been a pretty level-headed person and definitely not superstitious, but she was very nervous and made me agree not to tell my Nana about it to avoid scaring her, which made me recognize how serious this was. I should also mention that there had apparently been a series of attacks on livestock in the area at the time. People were saying they found wire fences ripped through and their animals attacked. I don't know if they died or not. There has been a few other strange incidents in this area, but that was my own personal experience. Thank you, SDL. $45 going on $21. I'm the other way around, Kelly Johnston. 21 going on 45. Just kidding. Wiley, have a good night, buddy. All right. This experience may be short or it may be drawn out. I am recounting these events as I type, as it was honestly one of the most horrific things I had ever experienced. And it brings me genuine stress to even think about it. It happened 2 to 3 years ago. I live in southern West Virginia and have my entire life. The woods and mountains surround every direction you look. And nighttime is darkness that you can never dream of unless experienced. I was with a friend, let's call him Mark. Mark was at my house one evening doing the usual things, watching UFC, playing Xbox, etc. It was extremely late when we finally got bored and decided to go for a walk on a nearby trail and smoke a joint. This is not a particularly long trail, but it's very dense in the woods that surround it. and it's easy to get freaked out when you're thinking of the surroundings. We finally get about halfway into the trail, 30 minutes in, where we stop, roll up our joint, and stand on the trail, chill and talk. The forest is very alive tonight. There's always noise in the woods, but the amount of animal activity for the time was unsettling. At this point, it was probably past 1 a.m. This was strange and kind of eerie, but not alerting, as any sort of predatory animal would cause the whole area to go quiet. We finished smoking and continued our walk when almost immediately the forest did fall dead silent. And as soon as the forest goes quiet, there was a voice. It almost sounded like a mocking human voice, shaky, uncertain, almost like old children's toys, like the ones with the crackly speakers and robotic voices, if you know what I mean. This immediately sets us off. We bolt directly down the opposite length of the trail, but the sound does not gain distance. It does not get closer per se, but no matter how far we run down the trail, the voice remains the same volume, going over and over with no quieting or stopping. At this point, I am convinced we are in genuine danger, something I have felt very few times. Finally, after sprinting for who knows how long, we exit the trail, gasping for breath and almost at the verge of tears of how frightening this was. We begin to exit the trail, and about 5 minutes from the exit, there is a bone-shaking, heart-stopping, murderous scream from directly behind us. I know what a mountain lion sounds like, and that was not an animal. This was not somebody playing or watching a movie. This scream sent birds flying from their nests and made my heart drop into my stomach. It was the most genuine, depraved, and violent scream I had ever heard. True experience. I've only told a couple people, all of them brush it off. I have never been a person to push for an experience of the paranormal or spiritual. Anyway, that's my experience. It was definitely something inhuman. Hey, buddy, how are you? I did. All right, guys. A 3-hour live stream. Is that Eli? You know what? I'll do one more. Let me do one more. All right. I think this is a Black Eyed Kids one. I think I have one more Black Eyed Kids. Oh, Tina Marie. I hope she's okay, dear. Dang it. She'll be fine now. She'll be fine. No, she doesn't want me to tuck her in. She just wants an iced coffee. She's like, "Dad, make me iced coffee, please." Yeah, I wish her the best too. It's only for the best too, you know, Tina. Hopefully she takes advantage of it and just, you know, really learns from it. You have my email, so if she ever wants to talk, I can talk to her. I want to know if anyone has experienced anything similar to what I saw back in 1999. So 20 years ago, it happened, October 9th of that year. The only reason I know this is because 8-year-old me was watching the premiere of Disney Original Channel movie Don't Look Under the Bed. I hope that little factoid doesn't deter from what I am trying to get across. Before I continue, I'd like to give some backstory to the house I grew up in. I lived in Kensington, in a part of Philadelphia that has the largest open heroin market. So it looks like The Walking Dead with drug addicts slugging around everywhere. And it wasn't uncommon seeing them go to the back alleys. I was 4 or 5 years old the first time I saw something out of the ordinary. I remember it clear as day. My siblings and I were playing in the middle bedroom, having a good time being kids. My mom had just introduced us to her new boyfriend at the time. They came upstairs and watched us from the hall. I don't know what happened, but during our fun, I got a feeling of being watched, and I just had to turn in the direction, which happened to be the window in the middle bedroom. I looked out and saw what at first appeared to be a man, but I looked closer and noticed that he did not have a face, and his skin from head to toe was a texture of a wrinkled black plastic bag. I remember it reflecting the orange glow from the streetlights, and I was scared. I was staring for like 20 to 30 seconds and quickly turned to my mom, who was standing at the door, and said, "Somebody's watching us." She rushed to the window, but it was gone. Now, fast forward to the many events later. I'm on the couch watching Disney Channel. It was an ordinary day. I waited all day to watch this movie, and so I sat downstairs alone to do so, which was rare, for I was always afraid at this point in my life. I would see shadow people regularly, and other paranormal phenomena would happen, but I felt pretty good. Besides, my siblings didn't seem interested in the movie I was watching. Plus, my mom had cable in her room, and the cable box had a chip, so we could watch PPV for free. Now, like I said, everything is going good when about halfway through the movie, I see out of the corner of my eye someone step into the doorway of our kitchen. I turn and look up, and I see the figure standing there. It looks like a man. The only difference is he is as white as snow. His skin, his clothes, as white as a blank piece of paper, but his eyes were black, so black they were like a void. I didn't scream or run away either after witnessing this person or thing just appear into our kitchen. I just stared at it, and it stared back at me. So I slowly got up and made my way upstairs to where my siblings were, trying to explain to my older brother what I saw. Creepy thing is, he or it didn't move from the spot, even as I slowly left my view and went up the stairs. As I did not feel a negative or malevolent energy from it. It was just staring at me, and this all-white creature standing there. I was used to shadow people and also the other creature from before. Anyway, I am not talking about black-eyed kids. This was totally different. All right. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me. And I had a blast tonight. I'll see you guys maybe on my birthday. I'm not sure. I'll make sure that if I do anything on my birthday on Tuesday, it's only going to be like an hour, couple experiences just to say hi to everybody. But I'm not sure yet. So anyway, guys, have a great night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Don't let the gimp get you, because he likes to touch booty holes. And I'm going to be cuddling up next to my little buddy tonight. Love you. All right. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for everything tonight, too. Appreciate you.